Moss, 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 moss. Moss, 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 moss. Grass, 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 grass. Moss, 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 moss. Grass, 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 moss, moss, moss. Grass, 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 grass.
This is our nature song. Join us and sing along. La la la, la la la, la la la.
Sometimes you just have setbacks, but
you get through them.
Any last words, guys?
Goodbye, Tiki.
Goodbye,
Very good
Tiki.
fish
Day
for
zero.
about, the 24 hours that I knew you existed. Here we go. I think we may need some help. Okay. It's warm. Goodbye.
The purpose of the EcoColumn Lab was to create a closed system that could sustainably thrive without interference of the outside world, and also analyze the interaction between the three columns and the organisms within those three columns.
An eco-column is a closed system designed to model an ecosystem on a small scale. It is a useful tool to help analyze how energy is brought into the living world and transferred through the food chains, and how the living and non-living environment are intimately connected through cycles of matter. An eco-column is similar to an ecosystem in that both have food chains and support living organisms. They are different in that an eco-column cannot experience weather or natural disaster, and also an ecosystem is an open system while an eco-column is a closed system.
In our terrestrial chamber, we hypothesized that the grass would multiply as well as the succulents. We also hypothesized that the crickets would die due to a lack of food, but the worms would survive in the soil. For our decomposition chamber, we hypothesized that the worms will survive and break down all the nutrients available to them. In our aquatic chamber, we hypothesize that the fish will survive throughout the lab and that the turbidity will increase also.
To begin constructing our eco-column, we cut 3 2-liter bottles as the foundation. We began to assemble our eco-column by first putting together the terrestrial chamber. In this chamber, we put in dirt, 2 worms, 2 crickets, 2 succulents, and a sprig of grass. Next, we began constructing the decomposition chamber. In this chamber, we put dirt and compost. The compost consisted of carrots, lettuce, eggshells, apples, and coffee grounds. Lastly, we put together the aquatic chamber. Before we began, we washed the rocks several times and then put them into the bottom of the bottle. Then we added the elodea and the water. Finally, we put in the fish and a little bit of buckwheat into the water. We observed our eco-column by performing nitrogen, carbon dioxide, dissolved oxygen, pH, and temperature tests. We monitored the state of our water by observing the clarity and odor of it. Also, we watched the state of the living organisms at each of our chambers.
Some of the organisms found in our aquatic chamber include buckwheat and an elodea plant. Our decomp chamber consisted of worms, mold and bacteria, and other foodstuffs. Our terrestrial chamber consisted of a blade of grass, 2 succulents, worms, and crickets.
This food web models the activity that took place between the living organisms in our terrestrial chamber of the EcoColumn.
There were turbidity changes in the water because of the decomposing fish carcass. On the first testing day, the water was clear. After the fish died, small flesh-colored flakes were floating in the water, and as time continued on, the flakes became more abundant, but did not affect the clarity of the water significantly. We found this to be interesting because after the fish died and we decided to observe its decomposition, we expected the water to become increasingly darker and murky. However, it did not. The water in our aquatic chamber did not become darker and murky because we did not put as much buckwheat in our water as other ecocolumns had, so it did not multiply. Also, we didn't have any algae growth in our water to obstruct the clarity of the water.
The main limiting factor in our experiment was the amount of organisms available that contribute to parasitism, predation, mutualism, and commensalisms. Our growth of flora was mainly affected by the moisture supply, soil aeration, mineral nutrients in the soil, and the composition of the atmosphere inside the terrestrial chamber. The nitrogen flows down from the decomposition zone and into the terrestrial zone. The nitrogen then soaks into the soil and grass. The insects living in this zone eat the grass and take in the different types of nutrients in the soil. When the insects go to the bathroom and excrete, this then creates ammonia. The soil then creates bacteria, which makes ammonia chlorophyll. Our data proved that our hypothesis was incorrect and our fish did not survive the entire duration of the experiment. This was likely due to the oxygen levels in our EcoColumn. Our oxygen level first recorded was 0.14, which was obviously below 5 parts per million of oxygen. Our ecosystem didn't have the amount of plants that are in real ecosystems, thus causing low oxygen and low resilience for our entire EcoColumn. Our oxygen levels fluctuated due to what we believe was from the Eladia not being adjusted to our water and our biome as a whole.
During our lab, we had several sources of error. The main source of error was the small amount of aquatic plants in the aquatic chamber. The lack of abundance of plants most likely was the cause of the fish's death. Another source of error was the fact that we only planted one sprig of grass in our terrestrial chamber. More plant life would have maximized the productivity in our EcoColumn. Also, we never got a clear reading of our carbon dioxide levels because of possible error in the testing process.
This was not this
Yeah,
little.
well, that's little.
Oh my god, do you think this is a mother in here and this is...
It made a nest inside the eggshell. What is that, though? That's my question.
I think that's the carrots that I put in there.
Ew.
Oh yeah, the worms are definitely alive. Look at
Yeah,
that.
the
thriving.
worms.
They're
Okay.
thriving.
So,
That was a very successful. Okay.
And the sprout.
Ready, Maddie? Oh, for this video?
no, videotape this. Ready?
Oh god, there's more.
Week 6. Marine creatures dead. Land animals dead.
Get a close-up on that dead marine creature.
But our plants, they thrived. Our decomp, it thrived. Our worms, they thrived.
Tiki, anything bad?
No. Final words? Goodbye, Tiki 2.0.
Where are you jumping that at?
I feel in this bush.
Maybe we should put it on